All right, so I made some notes. The equation we're using is called the freezing point depression equation. It is delta TF equals little m times KF. Delta TF is the change in your freezing point. Little m is molality, which is moles of solute over kilograms of solvent. Then KF is your freezing point depression constant. That's always in units of degrees C over m. Your KFs are always positive. There was a typo in your pre-lab this week on number 3. It said the KF of chloroform was a negative 4.68. If you came to the pre-lab, I told you that was incorrect. It should have been positive. So if you didn't get that memo, sorry. So if KF's always positive, I always want molality to be positive. You can't have a negative molality. Then to make the change in freezing temperature positive always, we define it as the freezing point of our pure solvent minus the freezing point of solution. Okay, that will always give us a positive number here because the freezing point of solution is always less than your freezing point of your solvent. So that's the equation you'll be using in lab. Here it is without all the distractions going on. Okay. So, let me tell you a little bit about the procedure. On the very top of the procedure page, it tells you how to set up your lab quest and the correct mode and all that stuff. So make sure you don't overlook that. Then you go into part 1. Determine the freezing temperature of pure lauric acid. Okay, on that test tube that you get off the rolling cart, you'll see that there's a mass, a specific mass of lauric acid on that test tube. You actually don't need that for this first part. The only data that you are collecting from part 1 is the freezing point of pure lauric acid. Okay, that's all you're writing in your data sheet. All right, so it tells you, let me stop right here. If you're a TA, go start the hot plates that have water already on them so that they can be heating up so that y'all don't have to wait for them to get hot when you get in there. All right. Okay, back to part 1. Number 3 says add 300 mils of tap water to a 400 ml beaker. Place that beaker on the base of your veneer stir station. Use a utility clamp to obtain a test tube containing the lauric acid from your instructor. Those are just on the rolling cart. They say lauric acid. Fasten the utility clamp at the top of the test tube. Step 5, holding the utility clamp, insert the test tube into the hot water that is on your hot plate. Keep the test tube in the water until all the lauric acid is melted. Then remove the test tube from the water bath. Step 6 says insert the temperature probe into your lauric acid. Fasten the utility clamp to the stir station so that the test tube is above the water bath. Here, when you put your temp probe in your lauric acid, you do not want your temp probe sitting at the bottom of your test tube. So you might need to get your electrode support and attach it to your stir station at a level where the temp probe is only measuring the temperature of the liquid lauric acid, not any side of your test tube. Then step 7 tells you to start the data collection. So now you're going to lower the test tube into the water bath. Make sure the water level outside the test tube is higher than the lauric acid level inside the test tube. And you can see that in figure 15.1. But the problem with that figure is that the temp probe is touching the bottom of the test tube. Okay. Step 8 says continuously stir the lauric acid for the 10-minute duration of the experiment. In step 2 of this procedure, you set up your LabQuest to collect data for 600 seconds. That's 10 minutes. So in all of these test tubes, every single one, there's already a stir bar in there. You probably already noticed since you melted that lauric acid. So you're going to turn your stir station to a low setting so that it is continuously stirring that lauric acid. When your data collection is complete, use the hot water bath to melt the lauric acid enough to safely remove the temp probe. Once you have removed the temperature probe, you're going to wash it with distilled water and then pat it dry with a paper towel. Once you get your temp probe out of that test tube, you're going to go ahead and recork that, and you're going to return it to the rolling cart, leaving the stir bar in the test tube. Okay. Step 10 tells you to find the mean temperature using your graph. And step 10A, B, and C tell you how to do that. You'll select the point where the flat portion of the graph and drag across to select that region. So basically where the temp kind of remains constant. Drag across, hit Analyze at the top of your LabQuest, Statistics, Temperature. A box will be displayed and it will say Mean Temperature. That's your freezing point for pure lauric acid. Step 11 tells you to store this data for the first run by tapping the File Cabinet icon on your LabQuest. Okay, so now we're ready for part 2. Part 2, you're going to get the test tube that contains benzoic acid and lauric acid. This test tube, I've measured out exactly how much of each of those I put in there. So you need to record both of those masses on your data sheet. You're going to repeat steps 5 through 9. With your mixture. So you're going to melt it, then you're going to put it in the room temperature water bath with your temp probe, and you're going to wait 10 minutes until it has solidified again. Okay, once you've done that, you're going to remelt it so that you can get your temp probe out. This time, when you get your temperature probe out of the mixture, make sure that you do not take any liquid or solid with you, because if you do, it's going to mess up that mass that I so delicately weighed out to be in that test tube. So make sure you just let it drip a minute. Make sure there's nothing on it. If you have to scrape it off with a spatula, do whatever you need to do. Make sure you do not remove anything from that test tube. Okay, so once you've done that, you're going to look at your graph for the mixture. Your graph should look something like this. This time, you do not need to find the mean temperature. Instead, you need to find where the intersection here where it starts to level off, that is going to be your freezing point, and your graph should look something similar to this. So that will be the freezing point of the mixture. And that will also go in your data sheet. Okay. Then if you tap run 2, where it says run 1 by the file cabinet button, and hit display all runs, it will show you both of those graphs together. You need to save that graph with both of them displayed onto a USB drive, take it to the computer lab, print it off, attach it to your data sheet, and then you are done. You do have some calculations to do in the data analysis section, but they're very straightforward and self-explanatory, okay? So please try your best to keep lab in working order. I'm telling you, today was a disaster for my lab. I don't know if they realized it or if it was just me. But as always, do not move the hot plates. We already blew the breaker. I've already called maintenance. They've already come and fixed it. So, especially night lab, because if y'all blow the breaker, maintenance is not here to come fix it. So just don't move them. Leave them where I have them. You move and go to one of them, okay? All right, I think that's it. Hope y'all have a better week than I'm having. Bye.